You're listening to Three Kitchens, a member of the Alberta Podcast Network, locally grown, community supported. Join your hosts, Heather Dyer, Sarah Sundren, and Aaron Walker. You never know what they're going to make next.
This episode of Three Kitchens Podcast is brought to you by Alberta Blue Cross. Even if you're a busy business owner with more meetings than hours in a day, you are calm and collected when your group benefit plan is taken care of by Alberta Blue Cross.
Your employees can manage their own health, dental, life, and disability coverage online, anytime, on any device, making it easier for them and for you.
To learn more and explore your options, head to av.bluecross.ca.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Three Kitchens listeners, listening from wherever you're listening from. I am your host, Sarah Somasundaram, and I am here with Aaron Walker.
Hello.
And Heather Dyer.
Hello. I thought you were going to be like, afternoon, good evening, and good night. And I'm like, we're done?
Thank you for joining.
Yeah. Okay, so I was like, what day of the week is it? Because I was going to say something like, it's the perfect day of the week to go for ice cream. But really, any day of the week is a perfect day of the week to go for ice cream.
Perfect weather, too.
Oh, I know. It's been sunny.
Any day of the week, any season.
True. That's so true.
Well, it's true.
Especially with this place that we're about to talk about.
Yes.
Yeah. So we have an ice cream recommendation for everyone in Calgary. I'm sorry for those of you listening from elsewhere because you don't get to visit this amazing little shop.
Or just come to Calgary.
Yeah, when you come to visit, it's called the Milk Ice Cream Shop. You can find them online at milkicecreamshop.com. And it's this cute little handmade ice cream pop-up, essentially. I mean, I don't know if it's technically a pop-up now. I think they have I think their store is kind of set now.
Should we call it a boutique?
Oh, that sounds really nice.
Ice cream boutique.
I love it. It looks like a boutique. It's so cute inside.
Yeah, It's really cute. And I was looking at their bio. So it's two cousins, the two women who started it up, two cousins. The one of them, her family owns the diner next door. So I highly recommend you make a trip, like have lunch or breakfast and then ice cream, because they're right next to each other. Right next is John's Breakfast and Lunch. Great diner food and
great food. Yeah.
Vietnamese, Chinese kind of influences in there. Really yummy stuff.
And Western breakfasts as well.
Yes, exactly. And lunch. They have great like club sandwich, like just great food there. But milk is a small batch, locally made, and sometimes they collaborate with other restaurants and groups in the city to make like really cool little mashup.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Flavors. Yeah, I had one that they called it Date Night, and it was with Garbanzos, which is a plant-based eatery.
Right.
And it was like dates and pomegranate and maple, and I don't even know what all in there. It was like amazing. It was delicious.
It's delicious.
Yeah. What did you have there, Sarah?
I got the pandan.
I've had that one.
You know what's great is taste it back on the table. So
I know.
She let me taste a little bit of the Vietnamese coffee flavor. That was really good too. So I had a hard time choosing, but I went with the pandan. The kids went with mango sticky rice.
I had that one too. I've been a few times. It was delicious. The mango sticky rice. Oh, so good.
Yeah. And then I think the husband had fudgesicle, and they were all good. I had to try all of them.
They have plant-based options, which is why I've frequented it and eaten. Though all the ones that I've talked about eating are plant-based, and so is the fudgesicle. That one's a plant-based ice cream.
So if you have problems with dairy, many delicious options.
That's really nice that it's not just a sorbet.
I know. Many places are getting a lot better with that.
Yeah.
And especially these handcrafted small batch kind of places, they get really creative with plant-based, which is so nice because it's not just, you have like one option. Even if it's good, You usually have one flavor, but this one, yeah, I think there were 3 or 4 plant-based options typically. So really good.
And there is one flavor I have to talk about. If anyone grew up in Asia, or, you know, your Asian parents bought this for you when you were a kid, there is a flavor that's based on a white rabbit candy, which we're all familiar with. We all grew up with it, and it brings back good memories. And that's one of the flavors that's on the menu, which is pretty cool that you're doing a flavor based on a candy.
Some really interesting, nostalgic, I think, sort of things that the women who make the ice cream, that was probably something they grew up with too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love small local startups like that. That's great.
Do you want to tell the listeners where they're located?
The address is 2614 4th Street Northwest. Look them up at milkicecreamshop.com for all the flavors and the address and all of that.
Yeah, very cute place to stop by.
Well, I know where I'm going to have to stop next.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Are you feeling left out?
You guys did the product testing. Now I can just show up and know I'll be satisfied.
You will not be disappointed by this one for sure.
Testing, Erin. Let it know.
I'm on the case.
Good.
Next door, as you said, it's John's, what's it called? John's?
Breakfast and lunch.
Breakfast and lunch. And we used to go there for brunch all the time. Leads me into what this episode is about. This episode is about brunch.
Ooh.
I want breakfast, but I'm not a morning person. You guys know that. So I am not the kind of person that wakes up and makes these huge, massive breakfasts. That's what my husband is in charge of on weekdays. But on weekends, we either go out and we have a nice brunch, or we make something really delicious at home and we eat a little bit later. Okay. And one of the things that we make is rice porridge.
Oh.
It is also a comfort food for us when we are not feeling well. And one of those things that my daughter will actually request when she's not feeling good. Chinese rice porridge is called, you guys know it as congee. There's another word called jok. It's Jook, but we say it as jok. And that's what we refer to it as in Singapore. Okay. And the way we had it in Singapore, that's different from the congee you have here, is we would have just a plain bowl of rice porridge and we would have side dishes all around it. Whereas here, they tend to put everything into the bowl. So the meat and the vegetables, and then you mix it in with the rice porridge and you get one big sort of bowl of yumminess.
Oh, okay. Is it savory?
It is savory.
Okay. For some reason, I put it in the sweet category when you started talking about it. So
like oat porridge.
Yeah, I was thinking of
oatmeal,
cream of wheat.
Okay.
Yeah, I've never eaten this. I'm guessing you haven't either, Erin. So this is going to be interesting.
Clearly, I know nothing.
These things, and I shouldn't assume these things.
Don't assume anything with us.
You know, we used to go to a fantastic restaurant. It's called Sun's Barbecue. And on the weekend, they would have their weekend brunches. You would get a bowl of rice porridge and a side. So you would either get toast or some noodles, and you would get a coffee or a tea. It was just such a good memory of, okay, you know, we're just going to wake up, brush our teeth, and head out to Sun's Barbecue. But then it gets harder when you have 2 kids that can't sit still, right? That's tough. Anyway, there are a few different kinds of rice porridges. When I went to Japan, I noticed that their rice porridge sometimes, and I don't know if they have different kinds, it's almost layered. You almost have the rice sediment that kind of sinks to the bottom, and then you've got like the water as a different layer on top. Congee is not like that. Congee is just a really thick porridge. Give me the word for it, Erin, where everything is
homogeneous.
That's basically it. Thank you, science person.
Well, I've done my duty for the morning and I'm out.
And then this is something that will change from family to family, like oatmeal and stuff, what you put in it, even the texture sometimes. Some people might like a thicker texture. Some people might like a thinner one. It's really your family preference. So I'm going to refer to Hattie McKinnon, and I have her cookbook in front of me, which is called To Asia with Love. And if you are a vegetarian or a vegan or just love Asian food, pick up this cookbook. This is such a good one. Everything here has no meat in it. So, if you're like me, you would just add meat into these dishes if you would like. Her parents were from Hong Kong. Oh, sorry, they're from China, but very close to Hong Kong. So her rice porridge in this recipe is very Cantonese style. So it would be like everything in the bowl.
Mm-hmm.
So the recipe on the website online is called Hetty McKinnon's Brown Rice Congee with chili oil and crispy kale. And you can find this recipe on abc.net.au.
Oh, okay.
This recipe calls for brown rice. I have never made congee with brown rice before. So 3/4 cups of brown rice to 8 cups of water. So you see how
wow.
This is like
soupy.
Yeah, they're soupy, but it's not very thick. There's oil in this. There's salt. She talks about putting shiitake mushrooms in it, ginger, garlic, which I'm really excited about. I've never put garlic into my congee before.
What? You've never?
I know. I only go with her usually.
That's pretty special then.
And black-eyed peas, a star anise, sea salt, white pepper, and then we're going to talk about the chili oil and the crispy kale that's going to go on top.
Wow, this is very, there's a lot going on in there.
A lot going on. So just let's take this down a notch.
Yeah. There's a reason that this is for brunch, because you are
You
not
need some
whipping this
time.
up for breakfast unless you're up way too early than you should be.
Yeah.
Right. Usually congee on a stove would take about, I would say, a good hour and a half.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Well, you have a lot of water in there to cook down, right?
Right. Okay, I'm going to give you a little tip. And this is a tip that I found from her cookbook.
Okay.
Instead of the brown rice, I prefer white rice. She says the brown rice congee would be thicker. I've always gone with white rice congee. This is what you do. You take 2 cups of cooked white rice
Okay.
with 5 cups of vegetable stock or chicken stock, and you cut your cooking time in half.
Oh.
The rice is already starting to break down.
Okay.
And that's what you want the texture of the rice to be. When you look at your bowl of congee, you won't see individual pieces of rice. You might see blobs here and there, but most of the rice is basically broken down. It's like very disintegrated.
Oh.
Okay. So you've kind of like made it into like a starchy
Mush.
pudding. These words aren't like, ooh, wow,
Yum.
really appetizing.
It's good. It is good.
So,
When she's talking about the stuff in her recipe, ginger is a must
okay.
in congee. So you would slice the ginger, you would distress it a little bit. Like usually I use the handle of the knife and I kind of just give it a little bit of a tap and throw it into the pot while the rice is cooking.
Okay.
But I love this idea of putting garlic in it because I love garlic. And so maybe do that too. The second thing that is very important is you need to make this in stock. Don't make this in water. So you want that rice to absorb all that yummy stock flavor. So if you're vegetarian, go for vegetarian stock. I always go for chicken. And I'm going to make her crispy kale and chili oil, which I'm so excited about. And I'm always trying to find the best homemade chili oil recipe. And sometimes some of them are a little disappointing.
If you're not convinced to make your own chili oil, when you're at John's breakfast and lunch, having your lunch or your breakfast, the mama of the restaurant, that's not very nice, but I don't know her name, but she's like the mom of the family.
Yeah.
She makes her own chili oil. You can buy it there if you want. Homemade chili oil.
It's so good.
Yeah, but Sarah's going to convince us to make it ourselves. That's just your backup plan.
But this is the thing with making your own chili oil. You make it the way you want. If you don't love crazy spice, you're crazy. But, you can lessen that. If you like it to be more garlicky in flavor, you can do that. You heat up your oil and then you pour your hot oil onto your ingredients. Done. That's your chili oil.
It sounds simple.
It is simple. See?
Super simple.
Super simple.
This has a 1 Sarah simpleness rating.
Okay, but if it's only 1 Sarah, does that mean it's super simple? I just want to get this straight.
Ooh, the more Sarahs it takes, the harder it gets.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
2 to 3 cups of kale leaves, olive oil, sea salt. Throw it in the oven, crisp it up, and then break it down in your hand, and then you sprinkle it on top of the congee.
Oh, yummy.
I'm going to change it up a little bit. I'm going to make this with white rice. I'm going to include the stock. I'm probably going to do chicken stock with it. I'm going to make a pulled pork that I love. because I have to add meat into
I was waiting for it. I was like, when's the meat? What kind of meat is she doing?
We know this isn't a veg dish.
This is my recipe, so I am actually going to write up this recipe for the show notes. And I make this in my Instant Pot. I've also made this in a Dutch oven. This is a long, slow cook. So make this the night before, have some of the ribs with rice, and then take some of the pulled pork off of the ribs and throw it into your congee the next morning. And that's what congee is all about. It's leftovers coming out of your fridge. Lots of things you can do with congee. Because I am sharing this recipe with listeners and I never do measurements, I will get all the measurements for this recipe and we'll talk about it in the second half. So you're getting congee with crispy kale, chili oil, and delicious pulled pork rib in it.
This sounds good.
So is that 4 different things?
How many recipes are going into this?
This sounds like 4 recipes, so I'm going to give this a 4 Sarah rating.
What if this crispy kale? You know how easy it is to crisp up kale.
If you're not paying attention, you can burn that kale.
Yeah, I've definitely over-crisped kale before, so it's kind of like toasting buns in the oven. If you stand there and watch them, they never toast. But if you walk away for a second, they're burnt.
It's so good. Okay, I am excited. I don't think that I'm going to deliver this to you for breakfast.
You're not going to get it up at 3 a.m. and make this for my breakfast?
Never. I don't do that for anyone.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Brunch is my favorite meal. This episode is brought to you by Park Power, your friendly local utility provider in Alberta, offering internet, electricity, and natural gas with low rates, awesome service, and profit sharing with local charities.
Park Power's community partners include the CKUA Radio Network, Boys and Girls Club of Strathcona County, the Altview Foundation for Gender Variant and Sexual Minorities, the Festival Place Cultural Arts Foundation,
Muscular Dystrophy Canada, the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, and the Saffron Centre, which supports those affected by sexual violence. Learn more at parkpower.ca. Okie dokie, we are back.
Here we are. Long time no see. No.
So in the first half of the recording, I forgot to read something that Hetty McKinnon writes about congee, right? Which is, it's a staple meal and it's highly comforting. And that's what it is in our house. It's like a warm hug from mom when you're not feeling well, or it's like a loving brunch when it's the weekend, because I don't make loving brunches throughout the week.
You can't make a loving brunch throughout the week.
No.
The children are at school, not brunch.
Right.
Unless you want to enjoy brunch yourself.
True.
Yeah.
Which would be very nice on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Right.
And you know what? With this cooked rice trick that she talked about, I think that this can be done during the week. I think it was so much faster.
Oh, cool.
Okay, I'm going to first talk about the pork ribs that I made the night before. So I had about 1.5 kilograms of pork ribs, which then I like to put a little bit of sake on and let them sit for about 15 minutes. It kind of takes away, we've talked about this before, like the kind of the not so nice taste of meat sometimes. You can do this with any kind of cooking wine. Okay. And then I cut them and I seared them on the barbecue. You guys, you made me actually measure out my own recipe, because this is my recipe. So I never have measurements, right? And I actually had to like measure everything out and make notes.
We could just say approximate measurements.
Approximate.
Or, recipes when it just says to taste.
Well, we are going to do a couple of
just
to taste.
season it, you donkey.
Yeah. All right. This is a great recipe, so do take notes. And we'll write the notes as well in the show notes. So 3 to 4 cloves of garlic and same amount of ginger, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Does that make it easy? You don't need to take like 10 grams or 20 grams of ginger and then I hate that.
And then
yeah, I hate the when it comes to the ginger. Yeah.
This is why you come to Three Kitchens podcast. Mortar and pestle and mince it up. Okay. It doesn't have to be a fine paste for this. Okay. Then you fry up some onions And then you fry up your ginger and garlic mix. And then you add to the hot oil 1.5 tablespoons of Chinese 5-spice. You can buy these spice mixes. 1 to 2 tablespoons of gochujang. Gochujang is a Korean chili paste. What is so delicious about this is it's smoky and it's sweet. Now, if you don't want to go out and buy gochujang, you can put chili powder in this, and I would add a little ketchup for the sweetness.
Okay.
1 tablespoon of honey, a teaspoon of salt, a tablespoon of soy sauce, and 1 star anise that goes into this stew as well. Give it a good mix, and then you add your chicken stock. And I like to do it to about, I would say 3/4 of the pork ribs. I don't want it too soupy.
Yeah.
And because your meat is going to shrink anyway. And
Yeah.
then mix it all up and then cook it, stir it a couple of times, but cook it till it's tender. So in my Instant Pot, it takes about 6 hours.
On the slow cooker setting?
Yeah, on the slow cooker setting. You make a cornstarch slurry, which is about 1 tablespoon of cornstarch to about 1 to 2 tablespoons of water. You mix it up and you make a paste, and then you pour it into what is going to become a stew, basically. And then you let that thicken up, and then you're done. And when you're done, take it off the heat. And this is when you want to put your roasted sesame oil in. Don't cook roasted sesame oil. Something happens to the flavor. It goes away. I don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
So always finish it with roasted sesame oil. And that's your ribs.
How much sesame oil?
I would say about a teaspoon and a half. That I would say to taste. Also, before you put the cornstarch slurry in, salt to taste as well. This dish has been served with mashed potatoes. It's been served with rice. And as of this episode, it's been served with congee. It goes with everything. It's so yummy.
Goes with everything. Sarah once brought it to Thanksgiving dinner at my house. Do you remember when you brought ribs to Thanksgiving dinner?
Oh,
and we had turkey and we had ribs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The men were in heaven. They were just like, turkey and ribs? Oh, my God. Yeah.
So this is everything. It's got the sweetness, it's got the saltiness, it's got the astringent from the star anise. Like, it's got everything that your palate loves. No, I know this astringent doesn't make fur grow out of your...
I was like, the star anise is astringent. That word makes me very nervous now.
We're going to talk about astringent again, actually, when we talk about the chili oil. And let's talk about the chili oil straight away. I want to talk about the congee last.
She just reminded me that I've got that chili oil in my fridge. I'm like, what can I put it on? I've forgotten about it.
I saw some sudden excitement. I was like, what's
so
Heather excited about here?
What can I do for lunch with that chili oil?
So with the chili oil, we went to the recipe that was on abc.net.au, and I used that one. So it was 1 to 2 tablespoons of red pepper flakes. I used 2. 1 tablespoon of Korean red pepper flakes, which is your gochugaru. Again, if you don't have that, it's just chili powder. 20 grams of ginger. Here we go. 2 cloves of garlic. I think 3 cloves of garlic, and 2 teaspoons of sea salt flakes. I think I did 1 teaspoon for this.
Right.
Now, it says 1 to 2 tablespoons of Szechuan pepper flakes. So we want to talk about astringent. Szechuan pepper flakes, again, astringent. So what is astringent? Maybe I should explain. Astringent is everything that gives your mouth feels. It's not really a taste. It makes your mouth feel. So Szechuan pepper makes your mouth kind of go numb. Okay? Or think of...
It's kind of like makes that pucker, that kind of like...
Right. Like think of...
Like the same thing that sour kind of does sometimes,
Kind of like unripe banana is astringent. Think of your black licorice. You have the salty and you have the sweet and you get that, but then there's something else. That's the astringent. It gives your mouth feels. It's like emotions or your taste buds.
It's like dryness.
Yeah, it is like a dryness.
That's what pucker. That's what makes me think of that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, it's a dryness. Totally. So Szechuan pepper flakes, I was like 1 to 2 tablespoons of Szechuan pepper flakes. I did 1 tablespoon just because I thought it would just go well. And it did. I actually used the actual peppercorns and I put it in a mortar and pestle and it sort of broke it down into flakes. Okay. So make sure you do that. Don't put peppercorns in there. It's too much. And all went into a bowl and I heated up my 1 cup of grapeseed oil and then I poured it in. And that's it. That's your chili oil right there. Done. Put that aside. Kale chips.
Aha.
I really liked this method. There was nothing, I don't know, much to say about kale chips. You just salt it and oil it and you put it into your oven. 300 degrees Fahrenheit was a very good temperature. Took a little longer, but it all crisped up nice without burning.
It was nice and green.
Sometimes they turn kind of brownish if the temperature is too hot.
I usually do it at 350. This time I did it at 3 and I thought that was a good temperature.
Have you been over at my house when I've tried to make kale chips and we always do it on the barbecue and it always becomes that thing we forget about and we're like standing around and la 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 and then we're like, oh, the kale chips, and then we have to eat around the
it's just crumbs,
incinerated ash that's at the edge of the
and it happens so fast on high heat. So,
yeah. We've learned a few times. Well, maybe we haven't learned. We've made that mistake a few times.
Keep an eye on your kale chips.
All right.
And the reason why I wanted to keep the congee to the last is because congee is your blank canvas. This is the stuff that you make that you can put anything into, not what I just spoke about, but you can go into your fridge, take any leftover out, any kind of produce, and that goes into your congee. Bacon jam.
Oh my gosh.
Like the last episode, Heather made bacon jam. That would be fantastic for this.
Oh, yeah.
So anything, right?
I think that would be nice on top. Sure.
In her cookbook, To Asia with Love, she talks about 2 cups of cooked white rice to about 5 cups of stock. Okay.
Right.
So what I did was about 1.5 cups of cooked white rice to about 9 cups of water.
There was only 1.5 cups of rice.
Okay. And we're going to talk about that too. Wow. There was only 1.5 cups of cooked white rice. And the reason is this: she loves really thick congee. And this is again a personal preference. I prefer something that's a little, I don't want to say thin. It's definitely not thin. It's somewhere in the middle. This is up to you. It's the way you like porridge. Do you like to add more water into your oatmeal or less? I did this with chicken stock, but I did not use the chicken stock from the store. I used chicken powder, which is the chicken bouillon, basically.
Okay.
If you guys don't want to do this, then that's fine, because chicken bouillon does have MSG in it. It zhuzhes up everything.
Oh, I have not tried it.
Yeah. This is it's an unparalleled taste. Like you cannot.
What brand do you use?
I think it's Knorr's.
Oh, so you just that usual chicken bouillon stuff? I think you must have had a special kind. I have used that.
It's the one that is in a can that I use.
Yeah.
And for this one, I used 2 heaped tablespoons of chicken powder to flavor it. I did put garlic and ginger into this. So I sliced the ginger, I bruised it, just sort of hit it with the back of your knife to release the flavors. You throw that in with the rice and the stock, and I put a little extra garlic in it this time. Usually I don't make it with garlic. 2 cloves of garlic crushed. Okay. Every other ingredient I did not put in that she's talking about because I had that pork that was going to go. While you're making this congee, you want to constantly stir it because that's what breaks up the rice. Now, I usually make congee in my rice cooker. We've talked about this, but I have to say, stirring that congee on a stove, so much better because of that broken rice. And it took me less than an hour to make this congee. So think about you guys making a stew. It's going to take way longer than making a congee, which is going to take less than an hour. At the end of it, you put it all together. Now, here is another personal preference. I don't like a lot of things in my congee. I don't like to pack it. And then always have soy sauce and salt next to you. That's what each person seasons to taste in a bowl, in their individual bowls. And that was brunch. And weirdly enough, my daughter was sick when I made it, and I didn't even plan it that way. And she was so happy because that's her comfort food when she is not feeling well.
Oh, I can totally see why.
Yeah.
At first, when you said that in the first half, I thought, why do you want to eat something with ribs and like chili oil when you're not feeling well? That doesn't sound...
And you're not putting a lot in, like if you looked at your congee, there was not a lot of meat in it. There was not a lot of stuff going on. It was just mainly seasoned rice.
Yeah.
How did you enjoy your breakfast, or when did you have it? I don't even...
Okay. So I have to say, because I have my sweet tooth, I was skeptical going into this one.
Okay.
You talked about this savory rice porridge that just, I mean, I'm a fan of cream of wheat, so the texture didn't get me, but I was a little bit like, I don't know if I would put this in my comfort food category, right? Like, when you dropped it off, put it in my fridge, and I kept it until the next day. And I had it for lunch/breakfast. And I wasn't really remembering what you told me about all the things that you gave me.
Right.
So I took a large tablespoon of chili oil.
Oh, okay.
I was like, ooh. I was like, should I use all of this? And I used about half of it.
Okay, wow.
A lot. And then I was like, what is it anyway? After I heated it up and I licked off my spoon and I was like, oh yeah, this was chili oil.
And it was spicy chili oil.
Dang, this is spicy. That's okay. It was super good. It didn't take away from it. And I was like, okay, this makes sense as a breakfast item. I can get behind this because I don't think savory breakfast is ever the breakfast that I choose.
And that's like, what I choose.
I am 100% if there's pancakes, waffles, sweet. Okay. Like I make my cream of wheat with a dollop of butter and brown sugar. Right. Like I like something sweet in the morning. It's probably because I was raised on Frosted Flakes for breakfast. Yeah. No, this totally is a worthy breakfast.
Awesome.
Food. I was very like, going into this.
She was the person to convince, looks like. I think. We haven't heard from Heather yet.
Where's Heather sitting on this?
I think I may have said brunch is like my favorite meal. I don't know why. I love that it can be sweet or savory or a combination. The best brunch is like sweet and savory to me. Like when the maple syrup runs into the bacon and the sausage and even the eggs, I don't care. Like, I love all of it. I kept it till the next day and had it for breakfast. And I didn't go absolutely nuts with the chili oil, but I put chili oil. I drizzled some soy sauce on there and a little bit of sesame oil. And I put my kale chips on top, and I ate that so fast because it was so fucking good.
Yeah. Awesome.
Put a duck on it. Put a duck sound in there because I love this, and I didn't really have any. I expected to like it because I love Sarah's ribs. Yeah, I like porridge, so I was thinking the consistency I would probably like. To me, it sounded almost like the way you make risotto, so I had that kind of in mind. And it is
good point. Okay,
similar to like a risotto where you're stirring and stirring and stirring, and the rice breaks down a little bit. This is just more broken down. I would say. Oh my God, so good!
I forgot to ask, what type of rice was it that you used? Was it a long grain or a short grain?
See, I just love that the three brains on this, because I really need both of yours for mine to function. It was a short grain. Oh, okay. I'm glad you brought it up. If you want to make this from scratch, so from uncooked rice, what you want to do is you want to wash your rice really well until water is clear, and then you want to soak it for half an hour and then pour out that water and then go from there.
Okay. I was convinced it was a long grain rice. Wow. So interesting.
I love that the meat, like the rib, like it disappears almost. Like you get the odd little bit of the texture of the ribs, but really it's the flavor of the ribs. Yeah. More so. I mean, you do get a little bit of the texture, but I was thinking, you stir it and you kind of look at it and go, well, not much meat in here, but the flavor of it sure is in there. Like I thought it was so delicious. And then I was thinking of like, when I have roasted chicken, I want to put like roasted chicken in this the next day. I would eat it for lunch. I would eat it for dinner. It's almost like soup. Yes. Except different texture, but that kind of savory. You could eat this any meal of the day, I think. Thank you so much for introducing me to this because I loved it so much.
No problem.
That chili oil also, we should talk about that real quick because I thought that was delicious. And I'm a fan of almost any kind of chili oil. I'm not too fussy about which one because I think it's just like that perfect little hit of spice and flavor on
it's
lots
also
of
good
things.
in very big quantities if you should
Oops. If you should oops.
That's okay. It was so good.
And this is a good one.
I agree. This is a really good chili oil. I think I'm always looking for the next best chili oil in this house. And this is my new favorite. So I'm going with this one. And it's spicy, but not crazy spicy.
Oh no.
Right. So
obviously, because Erin can eat that much of it in her bowl and not be like...
No, it wasn't that spicy at all. It just, I find it gets me at the back of my throat. So if I start talking, then I start coughing.
Right.
So I was just like, hand up, spoon going.
Right. Yeah. Awesome.
Now, Sarah, how much congee did you have all together with this recipe?
You know, your Dutch oven, I think we have about the same size.
A big one.
Yeah, about 3/4 full.
Oh, wow. And a cup and a half of rice.
You lengthen that life of the rice.
That's amazing.
And this ended up being about 2.5 meals for us.
I think it's a great way to stretch any leftover that you've got. It's easy to put in an extra half a cup of rice when you're cooking it the night before so that you have this leftover the next day.
Exactly.
And then if you have some leftover chicken with like I know I've got leftover chicken from last night's meal. Smart.
2 tips. If you do have leftover rice, a great way to store it, if you're not going to use it in the next few days, is once it's cooled down, pack it to the top of your container so there's no air.
Okay.
Put it in your freezer. The other great thing that goes into congee is you take an egg, you crack it into a bowl, you whisk it, and then you pour it into your congee and you mix. And what this makes is a creamier congee.
Oh, so many ways to experiment with it.
So many things you can do with congee. Go forth, impress your family and friends with a delicious brunch.
Yeah,
totally.
Thank you for opening my mind.
Awesome. I'm so happy when that happens because you guys do that for me all the time. So.
Oh, that was so good, Sarah. Thank you. And now for the fine print. We at Three Kitchens gratefully acknowledge we are telling these stories in the traditional territories of the Treaty 7 nations in southern Alberta and the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. We honor the rich tradition of oral storytellers on this land who have come before us. You can find pictures and recipe links on Instagram and Facebook at Three Kitchens Podcast. If you like and subscribe on your podcast player, that helps more people find us.
And what do you think?
I think there's more salad in here. I think it's more salty.
It's hearty.